My childhood best friend said he had a surprise for me at the orientation welcome gala, and insisted I had to get up on stage. I walked over, my heart light with anticipation. The lights flared on. The campus queen stepped forward with a pair of scissors, and he pressed my shoulders down from behind, holding me in place. Snip. Strands of my long hair drifted to the floor. The whole auditorium burst into laughter. He laughed the loudest of all. The next day, when he found out I'd filed to withdraw from the university, his face went white in an instant. "You're dropping out over a stupid joke?" I turned to him calmly. "Yeah." Jake waved at me from the audience, his eyes bright with excitement. "Claire, get up here. Remember that surprise I promised you?" The crowd roared around us, the energy of the orientation welcome gala at its peak. I was the host, and had just finished introducing the next act. I smiled at him, holding my cue cards, and started down the stage steps. He ran over and grabbed my wrist, his grip tighter than necessary. "Not down, up." He tugged me back toward the stage. "The surprise is up here." I blinked, confused. "What surprise?" "You'll see. Hurry, we've only got a few minutes between acts." Jake didn't wait for an answer. He pushed me straight to the center of the stage. A spotlight slammed into my face, blinding white. I flinched and raised a hand to shield my eyes. The auditorium went dark beyond the circle of light. I couldn't make out any faces, only the low hum of curious murmurs. A twist of unease coiled in my stomach. My palms pricked with sweat. Jake stepped behind me and rested both hands on my shoulders, pressing down gently. It was a familiar, reassuring gesture. He'd done it our whole lives, whenever I was nervous. I took a steadying breath and lowered my hand. From the other side of the stage, someone walked out. It was Chloe Vanderbilt, the most popular girl in our department. She wore a flowing white tulle dress, her long hair styled in perfect loose waves, like a princess. In her hand, she held a pair of silver scissors. My chest tightened. I had no idea what this was supposed to be. A prank? I twisted my head to ask Jake what was going on. His hands suddenly clamped down hard, fingers digging into my shoulders like a vice, holding me completely still. My smile froze on my face. Chloe stopped in front of me, wearing a sweet, perfect smile. She lifted the scissors and waved them slowly in front of my eyes. Whistles and whoops erupted from the crowd. "So this is the surprise you were talking about, Jake?" Chloe's voice boomed over the speakers, through the entire auditorium. "You said you'd get me a gift. To prove how serious you are about me." My blood turned to ice. I tried to struggle, but Jake held me fast, his fingers biting into my skin. "Jake, what are you doing?" My voice shook. He didn't answer. He just chuckled low in my ear. The sound was soft, but it pricked like a needle. Chloe lifted a thick strand of my hair, the one that fell over my chest. My hair was long, nearly to my waist. I'd never dyed it or permed it. It was the thing I'd always treasured most. "Heard you've been growing this out forever?" Chloe asked, smiling. Her tone was playful and cruel. Someone in the crowd yelled, "Cut it! Cut it!" More voices joined in, swelling into a chant. "Cut it! Cut it!" I stared at Chloe, at the vicious grin on her face, and tried desperately to look back at Jake, to see his expression. But I couldn't move. Snip. A sharp, clean sound. The world went quiet for a heartbeat. A lock of dark hair drifted down in front of my eyes and landed on the polished stage floor. Then another snip. And another. Snip. 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 Chloe worked like a kid with a new toy, focused and relentless, shearing away my hair one cut at a time. Tiny bits of hair fell on my shoulders, down my neck, tickling my skin. A cold chill ran down the back of my neck as a huge section of hair fell away, and cool air hit my skin. The crowd exploded into thunderous laughter and applause. I could hear Jake laughing behind me, too. His chest shook against my back. His laugh was louder than anyone else's. Harsher. 18 years. I'd known him for 18 years. I stopped fighting. I let him hold me. I let Chloe destroy my hair. I just stood there, quiet, staring out at the blurry, cheering faces in the dark. I don't know how long it went on. Finally, Chloe stopped. She admired her work for a second, then tossed the scissors onto the floor with a clatter. There. I got your message, Jake. She smiled, then curtsied like a princess taking her bow and ran off the stage, her dress swishing around her. The pressure on my shoulders released. Jake let go. He patted the top of my head, sending a shower of cut hair raining down. Well? Surprised enough? He sounded light, proud, like he'd pulled off a really good joke. Come on, don't be mad. It'll grow back. I didn't look at him. I turned and walked slowly, step by step, toward the stage stairs. My hair felt light now, choppy and uneven, like a blind man had hacked at it with dull scissors. The laughter followed me. I walked off the stage, past all those smiling, staring faces, looking at me like I was some kind of clown. I didn't cry. Not a single tear. I just thought, those 18 years were a joke. And I was the punchline. My dorm room was empty when I got back. All my roommates were still at the gala, probably still laughing about the biggest joke of the night. I walked over to the mirror. The girl staring back had short, messy hair, shaved nearly to the scalp in some spots, left long and ragged in others. Ridiculous. Pathetic. I reached up and touched the back of my neck. It was bare, strange. I stared at my reflection for a long time, expressionless. Then I turned, pulled the biggest suitcase from my closet, and laid it flat on the floor. I started packing. One thing at a time. Clothes, folded neat. Books, stacked straight. Toiletries, tucked into a bag. My movements were slow, methodical. Just like all those times I'd cleaned up Jake's messy room, or packed his backpack for him, over the last 18 years. My phone buzzed wildly on the desk. It was Jake calling. I didn't answer. He texted next. Claire, where'd you go? You actually mad? Come on, it was just a joke. You're not gonna be this petty, are you? Chloe and I are just messing around. Don't overthink it. Hey, text me back. Jesus, seriously? This is ridiculous. I read every word, then flipped the phone face down on the desk. Silence. I went back to packing. For 18 years, my whole life had revolved around him. I'd begged my mom to pull strings so I could go to the same elementary school. I'd studied my ass off to get into the same middle school. I'd turned down a program I actually cared about just to go to the same college as him. He'd said, Claire, we'll always be together. I'd believed him. He'd said, Claire, I've got you in college. No one's gonna mess with you. I'd believed that, too. He'd said, Claire, I've got a surprise for you tonight. And I'd been so happy. The suitcase filled up fast. I zipped it shut and stood it by the door. The dorm door swung open. My roommate walked in. She saw me, then the suitcase by the door, and froze. Claire? What's going on? Her eyes flicked to my hair, awkward and sympathetic. Nothing, I said calmly. I'm going home for a while. Oh, well, do you want to go get it fixed at a salon? She asked carefully. No, I said. There was no point. That night, I slept fine. No dreams. No tears. I woke up at dawn, before the sun was fully up. I didn't wake my roommate. I got ready quietly, grabbed my suitcase, and slipped out of the dorm. The campus was quiet in the early morning, just birds and the swish of a groundskeeper's broom. I walked to the administration building. The academic advisor's office was still locked. I sat on the bench outside and waited. At 8 o'clock, my advisor showed up, yawning. He did a double take when he saw me. "Claire? This early? What happened to your?" He clearly already knew about last night. "Mr. Carter, I want to withdraw from the university." I stood up and handed him the withdrawal letter I'd written the night before. His surprise turned to shock. He took off his glasses, rubbed his eyes, put them back on, and stared at me. "Withdraw? Why? Claire, you've only been here a month. You're one of our top students." "Personal reasons," I said. "Is this about last night?" He lowered his voice. "Jake and Chloe went way too far. I was gonna talk to them today, make them apologize publicly." "No need," I shook my head. "It's not about them. It's my decision." "Kid, don't be stubborn." He sounded frustrated. "Dropping out over this? Think about your parents. Think about how hard you worked to get here. All those years of school, you don't throw that away over a stupid prank." I stared at him, saying nothing. 18 years. There it was again. My 18 years, apparently, were only worth as much as a stupid prank to everyone else. He sighed when he realized he couldn't talk me out of it, and started the paperwork. He made a few calls, told me to go to the registrar, then student finance, then the library. I carried the form from office to office, collecting one official red stamp after another. Each crisp imprint felt like a final period stamped onto my old life. The sun was bright, the trees on campus green. I saw Jake and Chloe walking together. He was holding breakfast, laughing at something she said. They saw me, too. Chloe glanced at me for half a second, openly scornful, then looked away. Jake's face twisted. He started to walk over, but Chloe pulled him back. I didn't slow down. I walked right past them, eyes straight ahead. By 10 a.m., the last stamp was done. I held my official withdrawal letter and walked out of the administration building. This university I'd fought so hard to get into meant nothing to me anymore. I dragged my suitcase toward the campus gate. I'd already called an Uber to the train station. "Claire." Jake's voice, angry and desperate, came from behind me. I didn't stop. He ran up and grabbed my wrist, squeezing so hard I thought he might break it. "Where are you going?" He was breathless, staring wild-eyed at my suitcase. "Home," I said flatly. "Home? What about class? You have lecture this morning." "Not anymore." "What is that supposed to mean?" He frowned, already annoyed. "You still mad about last night?" I said it was a joke. "How long are you gonna hold this over my head?" I looked at him and almost laughed. Who did he think he was, that I had to forgive him just because he said so? And he hadn't even apologized. "I withdrew from school," I said, calm as stating a fact. The annoyance on Jake's face froze. He blinked like he hadn't heard right. "What?" I said. I dropped out. I wiggled my wrist, trying to get free. He held on tighter, if anything. All the color drained from his face. His eyes went wide with panic, like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. "Dropped out? Are you insane?" His voice shot up, drawing stares from passing students. "You're actually dropping out over one joke?" It was exactly what I'd expected him to say. I looked at that panicked face, the face I'd known for 18 years, and it felt like I was looking at a stranger. I turned away calmly. "Yeah." That was all I said. Then I wrenched my hand free, hard. He stumbled back, off balance. He clearly hadn't expected me to push back that hard. I grabbed my suitcase and kept walking toward the gate. The Uber was already waiting at the curb. "Claire!" Jake yelled behind me. There was a tremor in his voice he probably didn't even notice. Get back here. Explain yourself. What do you mean, dropped out? You're not serious, are you? I ignored him. I opened the trunk and put my suitcase inside. Then I got in the back seat and pulled the door shut. Go ahead, driver. Jake ran up and banged on the window. Claire. Open the door. You can't leave. What about us? 18 years, and you're throwing it all away over this? What am I supposed to tell our parents? How am I supposed to explain this? Claire. Open up. I stared out the window at his twisted, frantic face, and felt nothing. The car pulled away, leaving him behind. In the rearview mirror, I watched him run after the car for a few steps, then stop, standing there lost and confused like a little kid who'd been left behind. I looked away, leaned back against the seat, and closed my eyes. 18 years of whatever this was. It ended the second he held me down and let another girl cut my hair, just to impress her. Now he was panicking. Not because I was hurt. But because he'd lost control of the situation. Because he didn't know how to explain it to our parents. That was all he cared about. I breathed out slow. I'd never felt lighter. The train clicked along the tracks at a steady rhythm. The scenery flew by outside, skyscrapers, fields, hills, all blurring into streaks of color. Just like my college life, cut short and pulled out by the roots. Just like the 18 years before it. I didn't cry. I didn't even really feel sad. There was just this hollow feeling in my chest, like something had been carved out, cold and numb where the wound was. My phone buzzed in my pocket for a long time. I didn't take it out. I knew it was Jake, no one else would be blowing up my phone like this. I leaned against the window and stared at my reflection in the glass. That choppy, hacked-up hair looked ugly and ridiculous. But it also made me feel awake, for the first time in a long time. How much had I given up, how much had I put up with, just to hold on to this childhood best friend thing with Jake? He was careless, always losing things I'd picked up after him. He slept through class, couldn't finish his homework, I'd stayed up late writing his notes, walking him through problems. He got in fights playing basketball, I'd gone and apologized for him. He got his heart broken, I'd stayed up all night drinking with him, listening to him mope. Everyone always said, Claire, you're so good to Jake. And Jake would always say, Claire, I don't know what I'd do without you. I'd always thought that meant we were close, that we had something special. Now I knew I'd just been the doormat, always there when he needed me, easy to push around. And when he needed a sacrifice to impress another girl, to fit in with the cooler crowd, I was the easiest, most convenient target. The one who'd never make a big deal out of it. 18 years of friendship, to him, was worth nothing more than a cheap laugh for a room full of strangers. The buzzing stopped for a minute, then started again, louder this time. I pulled the phone out. Mrs. Wilson was on the screen. Jake's mom. I swiped to answer and said nothing. Claire? Is that you, honey? Mrs. Wilson's voice was warm as usual, with a faint edge of worry under it. Hi, Mrs. Wilson. My voice was steady. Oh, thank goodness. Jake said you skipped class today, and you weren't answering your phone. I was so worried. Did you two have a fight? She talked like I was just a kid throwing a tantrum. We didn't fight, I said. Sure you did. Jake told me all about it. It was just a silly prank at the gala, he cut a little of your hair. That boy's such a handful, I'll give him a piece of my mind when I see him. She brushed it off like it was nothing. Boys can be so thoughtless. Don't take it to heart, okay? Hair grows back. Now come on, go back to class. Don't fall behind over this. I listened quietly. Every word felt like another tiny needle in my already numb chest. So that's what it was to all of them. Just a harmless joke. My dignity, my humiliation, my pain, none of it mattered. Mrs. Wilson, I cut her off. I dropped out. The line went dead silent. I could almost hear the shock. After 5 long seconds, her voice came back, sharp and disbelieving. What? What did you say? Dropped out? Claire, don't joke about that. It's not funny. I'm not joking. The paperwork is all done. I'm on the train home right now. I said every word slow and clear. Why on earth would you do that? Her voice rose, sharp and accusatory. Over a little haircut? Over something so trivial? Claire, aren't you being a little dramatic? Do you know how hard your parents worked to send you to college? Do you know how long our families have known each other? Mrs. Wilson, I cut her off again. I'm tired. I'm gonna rest. I'll talk to my parents when I get home. Claire. Don't you hang up on me. You explain yourself. I pressed end before she could finish yelling. The train car went quiet again. I stared out the window. The sky was getting dark. Far away, city lights twinkled like scattered jewels, bright and distant. There was no place for me there anymore. That was fine. A fresh start was better than drowning in the mess. What Jake and his family did to clean up their mess wasn't my problem anymore. When I stepped off the train, the air smelled like the familiar mix of dust and damp that my hometown of Maplewood always had. I didn't call a cab. I dragged my suitcase and walked home, slow. The streets, the shops, the noise, everything was exactly the same as when I'd left. But nothing felt the same inside me. I could see our old apartment building from down the street. The kitchen light was on the 3rd floor. I paused, took a deep breath, and kept walking. I knew exactly what was waiting for me. Sure enough, when I unlocked the door and dragged my suitcase inside, the easy mood in the living room shattered. Dad was on the couch watching the news. Mom was coming out of the kitchen with a plate of fruit. They both froze when they saw me, and the huge suitcase behind me. Mom's plate slipped out of her hand and crashed to the floor. Apples and oranges rolled everywhere. Claire? What are you doing home? You're supposed to be at school. Mom's voice was shaking. Dad stood up fast. His eyes scanned me, landed on my choppy short hair, and his face went dark with anger. What happened to your hair? And why do you have a suitcase? He demanded. I didn't answer right away. I knelt down and picked up all the fruit, one by one, put them back on the plate, and set it on the coffee table. Then I stood up straight and looked at them. I dropped out of college. For simple words, and they hit the room like a bomb. What? Mom ran over and grabbed my arm, her eyes wide and bloodshot. Say that again. You dropped out? Why? You worked so hard to get in, why would you throw that away? That's right, why? Dad roared, pacing back and forth. We worked our fingers to the bone to send you there, and you throw your future away? Claire, have you lost your mind? 1 month. You were there 1 month, and you come crawling back? I'd known they'd react this way. Mrs. Wilson had already called them, I was sure. And her version? That I was being dramatic, throwing a fit over a tiny joke. Is this about Jake? His mom called, said you two had a little fight and you ran home. Mom sounded like she was hoping it was just a silly fight they could fix. Couples fight and make up all the time. You two grew up together, can't you just talk it out? Running home and dropping out over nothing? What will the neighbors think? What will the Wilsons think of you? There it was again. Nothing. My heart felt like it was sinking into ice. The last little bit of warmth was gone. I didn't yell, didn't cry. I just lifted my hand and pointed at my hair, looking them dead in the eye. Dad. Mom. Look at my hair. Really look. They blinked, and their eyes finally focused on the messy, uneven cut. I didn't do this myself. I didn't go to a salon. I spoke slow, every word sharp and clear. Last night, at the orientation gala, in front of 1,000 people, Jake held me down. He let this girl Chloe take a pair of scissors and cut my hair like this. One snip at a time. I put extra weight on held me down and one snip at a time. Everyone was laughing. Everyone was cheering. And Jake? The boy you've known since he was a baby, the one you always said was such a good kid? He was standing right behind me, laughing louder than anyone. The living room went dead quiet. Dad stopped pacing. Mom let go of my arm. The anger drained from their faces, replaced by shock and horror. He did that? Mom whispered, going pale. I let him be part of my future. He made me a joke. My voice was steady. I can't be at that school anymore. I can't see him every day. I can't walk past all those people who watched and laughed. I can't pretend none of it happened. I looked them straight in the eye, steady and sure. So I dropped out. This isn't a tantrum. It's not a joke. It's my choice. All the paperwork is done. I'm not here to ask permission. I'm here to tell you. I didn't wait for a response. I picked up my suitcase, walked straight to my room, and slammed the door shut. All the voices, all the stares, all of it stayed outside. I knew it was cruel. But I had to close that door. From now on, my life was mine to live. I sat on my bed, listening through the door to my parents arguing in quiet, tight voices, and Mom crying off and on. After a while, the phone rang. Mom answered it. She tried to be polite at first, but it quickly turned into a fight. I didn't have to guess who it was. The storm had moved from the college to our two working-class families. Across the neighborhood, at the Wilson house, the mood was even worse. When Jake got home, he was met with his dad's stone-cold face and his mom's red, puffy eyes. You got some nerve showing up here. Mr. Wilson sat on the couch, crumpling a newspaper in his hand so tight his knuckles were white. Jake had been a mess since I'd pulled away from him at the campus gate. He'd called me dozens of times, texted even more, and gotten nothing back. He'd thought I was just hiding to make him sweat. He'd never in a million years thought I'd actually drop out. He was still reeling from the shock when he walked into his own parents' judgment. Dad? Mom? What's wrong? He tried to play it cool, slinging his backpack off. Don't you move. Mr. Wilson growled, slamming the newspaper down on the coffee table. Look at what you've done. Mrs. Wilson pointed at him, crying too hard to talk at first. I talked to the Bennetts. Claire, she actually dropped out. She's on the train home right now. All the color drained from Jake's face. The thing he'd been terrified of, the thing he'd refused to believe, was confirmed straight from his mom's mouth. How could she do this? He mumbled, hurt and confused like he was the victim. It was just a joke. Did she have to go this far? What about everything we've had for 18 years? Smack. A loud, hard slap echoed through the room. Mr. Wilson had hit him. Jake stared, stunned, hand pressed to his stinging cheek. His dad had never laid a hand on him before. You stupid, selfish boy. You still think she's overreacting? Mr. Wilson was shaking with rage. You humiliated that girl in front of the whole school. You cut her hair, you trampled all over her dignity, and you call that a joke? What is wrong with you? I wanted to fit in with Chloe and her friends. She said I had to prove I was serious, that I was done with my old life, Jake stammered, trying to defend himself. So you used Claire as your offering? The girl who's done nothing but look out for you, the girl we've watched grow up right next door? You used her to make yourself look cool? Mr. Wilson's voice rose. Have you got no conscience? You've shamed this family. You've ruined decades of friendship between our two houses. All because of your stupid ego. Mrs. Wilson sobbed, "Your dad's right. Your Uncle David was so mad on the phone he could barely speak. What are we gonna do? How do we fix this?" Jake finally panicked. He'd never seen his parents this angry. He'd never thought one little prank could blow up this bad. He wasn't scared that I was hurt. He was scared he'd lost control, and that there would be consequences for him. "Dad, Mom, what do I do?" The fear finally showed on his face. Mr. Wilson pointed at the door. "You are going over there right now. You are gonna apologize. I don't care what you have to do, get on your knees if you have to, but you are gonna talk her into coming back to school. Now?" Jake blinked. "Right now." Mr. Wilson threw his car keys at Jake's chest. "I don't care how you do it. If Claire doesn't go back to that school, you don't come back here either. You're no son of mine." Jake caught the cold metal keys, his palms sweating. He finally understood. The surprise he'd planned had turned into a disaster he couldn't fix. And now he had to face the music. I stayed in my room, the door blocking out most of the noise, but I could still hear my parents arguing and crying. I knew they needed time to process it. They needed to be angry and upset. And I needed the quiet to let all the empty feelings settle. After a while, it went quiet outside. Then there was loud, urgent knocking on the front door. Bang, 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 like someone was trying to break it down. "Who is it?" Mom called, her voice wary and thick with tears. "Auntie, it's me. Jake. I need to see Claire. I need to apologize." The living room went dead silent. A few seconds later, I heard Dad's voice, low and furious. "You've got some nerve showing up here. Uncle David, Auntie, please let me see her. I know I messed up. I'm so sorry." Jake's voice was thick with tears, dramatic and performative. It sounded fake. I didn't move. I just sat at my desk and listened. I could picture him, all wide-eyed and remorseful, putting on the same act every selfish person puts on when they get caught. The front door opened anyway. Probably because my parents wanted to hear him say it to their faces. "Where is she? Where's Claire?" Jake sounded desperate. "She doesn't want to see you." Mom's voice was cold, nothing like the warm welcome she used to give him. "Auntie, Right then, I pulled my bedroom door open. I stood there in the doorway, calm, and looked at the familiar figure in our living room. Jake was in sweatpants, his hair a mess, his face pale and streaked with tears. There was a bright red handprint on his left cheek. When he saw me, his face lit up like I was his lifeline, and he lunged forward. "Claire." Dad stepped between us immediately, a solid wall. "Stay back." Dad's voice was low, warning. Jake froze. He looked from Dad's cold glare to me, and forced a wobbly smile. "Claire, come on, don't be mad. Last night was... I was an idiot. I messed up. It was just a joke, I didn't think you'd take it this hard, A joke?" I spoke softly, cutting him off. My voice wasn't loud, but it felt like the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. I stepped out from behind Dad and looked him straight in the eye. "Jake. In front of 1,000 people, you held me down so another girl could cut my hair off like I was a doll. You stepped on my dignity so everyone could laugh at me. And now you're telling me it was a joke?" I said it flat, like I was talking about the weather. But every word landed like a knife. His mouth opened and closed. He couldn't get a full sentence out. I didn't mean it like that. I just... Chloe wanted. You wanted to fit in with her friends, so you needed a sacrifice. Right? I finished for him. And I was the easy choice. The friend you've known for 18 years, the one who always does what you say, the one who never fights back. Jake went pale. He looked away, caught red-handed. "That's not true. Claire, we have 18 years together. Does that really mean nothing after one mistake? He pulled out the same old card. You're throwing away your whole future over this. What about Mom and Dad? What about our families? Enough. Dad roared, finally snapping. You don't get to talk about 18 years. You didn't think about 18 years when you used my daughter as a doormat to impress your little girlfriend. Now that she's done with you, you want to bring up history? Jake, what you did wasn't a joke. It was cruel. It was wrong. Mom pointed at the door, her eyes red. Get out. You're not welcome here. Claire's made her decision, and nothing you say will change it. Leave her alone. Jake panicked. He could see we weren't budging. Words weren't gonna work. His knees buckled, and he dropped to the floor with a thud. Claire, please. Come back to school with me. I'm sorry. I'll get on my knees, whatever you want. Just please don't drop out. My dad will kill me if you don't go back. He was sobbing, snot and tears running down his face. This wasn't an apology. This wasn't remorse. This was him begging to save himself. Pathetic. I looked down at him, at the boy I'd once thought would be in my life forever. The last little spark of anything I'd felt for him went out. Jake, my voice was ice cold. Save the act. Your little performance is just as disgusting as your apology. I turned to my parents. Dad, Mom, get him out of here. I never want to see him again. I turned and walked back into my room, slamming the door hard behind me. Outside, I heard my parents yelling at him to leave, and Jake begging and crying. Finally, there was a loud bang as the front door shut. Silence. After Jake was gone, the house was quiet for a long time. I could hear Mom crying quietly, and Dad sighing heavy. I opened my door and went back out. Mom saw me and wiped her eyes fast, like she wanted to say something but didn't know where to start. Dad patted the couch next to him. Come here, kiddo. I sat down across from them. We're sorry, baby. Dad's voice was rough, guilty. When you first walked in, we jumped down your throat before we even knew what happened. We had no idea that boy could be that cruel. We watched him grow up. We were blind. Mom nodded, crying again. My poor baby. Why didn't you call us? If we'd known, we would've. Would've what? I asked calmly. Would've driven up there and yelled at him? Yelled at his parents? Made a big scene? And then what? Everyone would know even more. I'd have to walk around campus every day with everyone staring, feeling sorry for me. See him and his girlfriend every day, and pretend everything was fine? They didn't have an answer. They knew it would have just been a different kind of torture. It was the only way to cut the Gordian knot. I said. Painful, but the cleanest path to healing. They stared at me, still worried. Mom's voice was wobbly. But that college, you worked so hard. What about your future? There's more than one way to have a future. I cut her off, and told them the plan I'd been turning over in my head while I was locked in my room. Dad, Mom. I'm gonna take a gap year and retake the SAT. I'm gonna apply to college again next year. That hit harder than the dropout news. They blinked at me, stunned. Retake the SAT? Dad frowned. Claire, are you sure? It's brutal. Way harder than senior year. And you already went to college. People will talk. I don't care about the work, I said, steady. I did senior year once. I can do it again. And as for people talking? At least it's not people laughing at me for getting my hair cut on stage. Besides, I looked them dead in the eye. This time, I'm doing it for me. Last time, I'd picked computer science because Jake liked it, even though I'd always wanted to study teaching. Last time, I'd picked a school close to home because he wanted to stay local, even though I'd dreamed of going somewhere bigger. I'd let that childhood best friend thing tie me down for way too long. This time, I'm going to the city I want. I'm studying what I want. Somewhere with no Jake, no one who knows me. A fresh start. There was no room for argument in my voice. Dad stared at me for a long time. He didn't see a kid throwing a tantrum. He saw someone with a plan, someone determined. Slowly, his frown softened into pride. He nodded hard. All right. That's my girl. You've got guts. Take the year off, study again. There's more than one road in life. We don't need to take the one that makes you miserable. Don't worry about money. We'll figure it out. Mom looked from me to Dad, and the worry in her eyes softened. She wiped her tears and nodded. That's right. Our girl's smart. You'll get into an even better school this time. I'm right behind you. Just then, the phone rang. Mom went to answer it. She said hello, and her face went cold immediately. Margaret, I think we're done talking. Her voice was sharp and distant. Whatever was said on the other end made Mom's voice rise. Your son didn't do anything wrong? It was just a joke. Margaret Wilson, have you got no shame? Your son held my daughter down and humiliated her in front of the whole school, and you call that a joke? Let me tell you something. My daughter's home now, and she's not going back. Whatever friendship our families had died the second your son picked up those scissors. Don't call here again. We don't want anything to do with you. She slammed the phone down so hard the whole table shook. She leaned against the wall, breathing hard, but her eyes were bright. I knew then. I had them in my corner. All the way. We were a team now. And my new fight was just beginning. Once we'd made the decision, the heavy cloud over our house started to lift. Mom and Dad stopped moping and got busy. Dad called my old high school to ask about the SAT gap year prep program. Mom started planning meals, talking about how she'd fatten me up after all the stress of senior year. The house went from sad silence to busy, hopeful energy. I rested for 2 days, got my head straight, then got to work. First thing, the hair. I walked down to the salon a few blocks from our apartment, the one Lisa had run for years. Lisa's eyes went wide when she saw me. Claire? Honey, what happened to your hair? Did you do that yourself? I stared at my reflection, at the mangled mess Chloe and Jake had left. It was an ugly reminder of that night. Lisa, cut it all off. Cut it short? Yeah. Buzz it. As short as you can go. Clean it up. Lisa looked confused, but she picked up her clippers and got to work. The snip of the scissors, the hum of the clippers, this time, it didn't scare me. It felt like relief. Chunk after chunk of uneven hair fell to the floor, taking all the heavy, ugly memories with it. 30 minutes later, Lisa set down her tools. I stared at the girl in the mirror. She looked almost like a stranger, but sharper. Clearer. All my features were out in the open now, no long hair to hide behind. My eyes looked brighter, surer. The short, neat crop made me look tough, like something ready to grow through the winter. Looks great, Lisa said, honest. You've got the face for it. Pretty as ever. I smiled, paid her, and walked outside. The sun hit my short hair, warm. I touched the back of my neck, smooth, no long tangles. It felt like I'd shed a heavy skin. I felt lighter. Second thing, books. I took the bus across town to the big Barnes in Noble downtown, the same one I'd spent every weekend and back when I was studying for the SAT the first time. That familiar paper and ink smell hit me when I walked in. I went straight to the test prep section. Shelves and shelves of the latest 5 years of SATs, 3 years of practice, 38 full-length practice exams, all the review guides. I grabbed the ones I needed: math, physics, chemistry, biology, English. Piles of them, stacking up at my feet. I was flipping through a vocab book when my phone buzzed. It was a text from Mia Thompson, my best friend from high school. We'd gone to the same college, different departments. "Claire, you okay? I heard you dropped out?" Another text right after. "Everyone on the campus read it, is losing it. They're all talking about the gala. Jake's been walking around like a zombie. Chloe and her friends are going around saying you're overreacting, that you're making a big deal out of nothing to ruin him. Don't listen to them. So many of us are on your side. What he did was messed up." I felt a little warm reading that. But Jake and Chloe? I didn't care anymore. Their drama, their excuses, their little social world, it all felt so far away, like a show I'd stopped watching. I wasn't fighting that battle anymore. My battlefield was these books. My goal was next June. I texted Mia back, "I'm fine, don't worry. I'm taking a gap year to retake the SAT. I'm at the bookstore getting supplies. Gotta run. Have fun at school." I put my phone on silent and stuck it back in my pocket before she could reply. I picked up my huge stack of books and headed for the checkout. Paid, stuffed them all in my backpack. It was heavy on my shoulders, but it felt good. Solid. I walked out of the bookstore into the warm afternoon sun. I stood there on the busy sidewalk, backpack full of books full of future, and took a deep breath. Car horns, people laughing, store speakers playing music, all of it felt real. I wasn't that girl who followed a boy around anymore. I'm Claire Bennett, 18, and proud to be starting my second shot at senior year. My new life started right here, right now. After Dad practically threw Jake out of the house, things didn't stay quiet for long. We lived in the same old apartment complex, just 100 feet apart. That cute neighborhood coincidence everyone used to talk about was just awkward now. Jake didn't leave right away. He hung around outside our building, waiting, like he thought I'd change my mind. I closed the curtains and ignored him. Eventually, his dad called him, and he slunk home. The real storm was just starting over at his house. "You call that apologizing? I told you to bring her back. You got on your knees and she still wouldn't look at you? You've embarrassed this family all the way to the Bennett's front door." Mr. Wilson's roar carried right through their front door. Jake walked into his father's full fury. Mrs. Wilson tried to step in, but one look from her husband shut her up. "Dad, I tried. I begged. She won't listen. Her parents kicked me out. What was I supposed to do?" Jake held his sore cheek, defensive and scared. "She's just doing this to get back at me. She wants me to suffer." "Get back at you?" Mr. Wilson laughed, bitter and disappointed. "You still think this is about you? Jake, look at me. You treated that girl like garbage. Why on earth would she forgive you just because you say sorry? Do you think the whole world revolves around you?" Mrs. Wilson spoke up quiet, "Honey, go easy on him. He made a mistake. That Chloe girl put the idea in his head. You be quiet." Mr. Wilson turned on her, sharp. "This is your fault. You've coddled him his whole life. Every time he messes up, you make excuses. You blame someone else. That's why he's grown up so selfish, so entitled. He didn't just cut that girl's hair. He threw away decades of friendship. He made a fool out of me." He walked over to the window, pointed toward our building, his voice shaking. "Do you know who David Bennett is? He's the best master machinist at the plant. Last month, when that big order from the south went sideways and the machine broke down? Who stayed up 2 nights straight fixing it? Him. Without him, this little company of mine would have gone under years ago. I've called him my friend for 20 years, half friendship, half respect for how good he is at what he does. And you? You went and humiliated his daughter for a cheap laugh? How am I supposed to look him in the eye now? How am I supposed to show my face at work? That hit Jake and his mom like cold water. They'd only been thinking about Jake's reputation, about neighborhood gossip. They'd never stopped to think there was actual business on the line. Jake stared. He'd always thought his family was doing us a favor, that we were lucky to know them. It never occurred to him that his dad's work relied on mine. Dad. I didn't know, the fear in his voice was real now. You don't know a lot of things. Mr. Wilson pointed at him, final. I don't care how you do it. Talk to Chloe. Talk to the school. Do whatever you have to, but get Claire to take back her withdrawal and come back. If you don't fix this, you're done with college too. Get out of this house. I don't have a son this spineless. He stormed into his study and slammed the door, leaving Jake and his mom on the floor, terrified. Mrs. Wilson held her son, crying. Baby, what are we gonna do? Your dad's so mad, maybe I should go over there, beg your aunt. Jake sat there, numb. He knew begging wouldn't work. My calm, dad's anger, his own dad's speech, it all weighed on him. For the first time, he realized that when I walked away, I took a lot more than just our friendship with me. I took his whole little world crashing down. He grabbed his phone, shaky, and pulled up Chloe's texts. Chloe, bad news. Claire dropped out. My dad's kicking me out. You have to help me. He waited. And waited. Finally, a reply. Cold and short. Not my problem. This is boring. And then a big red exclamation mark. She'd blocked him. While my family got busy with my plan, and the Wilsons fell apart, my first day of the prep program finally arrived. Dad pulled some old strings and got me into the prep class for retakers at Maplewood High. It was the school's special program for kids who hadn't gotten the score they wanted, who were ready to grind for another year. The rules were strict. The atmosphere was heavy. I showed up in a plain t-shirt and jeans, backpack stuffed with new books, and stood outside room 12 SAT Gap Year Prep, Class A. It was early morning study hall. The room was dead quiet, just the scratch of pencils on paper and the occasional page turn. Everyone had their head down, silent soldiers gearing up for a second shot at the war. My entrance broke the silence. My super short, almost boy haircut, and my face's younger, calmer than everyone else, stood out. Dozens of eyes turned to me. Curious. Judging. A little pitying. I could see the questions on their faces. Did she get kicked out of college? Did she just fail really bad? I didn't care. I scanned the room, found an empty seat by the window in the back, and walked over. Dropped my bag, pulled out the chair, sat down. No hurry. No nerves. I pulled out a brand new math workbook, a mistake journal, and a handful of pens. Lined them up neat, opened the book to the first chapter, and started working. The stares lasted a minute longer. When they realized I wasn't gonna acknowledge them, they got bored and went back to their own work. The scratch of pencils filled the room again. After study hall, my homeroom teacher, Mr. Henderson, who'd been my math teacher senior year, called me into his office. Mr. Henderson was in his 50s, thick glasses, serious, but good to his students. Claire, he looked at me, complicated. You sure about this? I'm sure, Mr. Henderson. I nodded. He sighed and handed me a class schedule. You've always been a great student. If it weren't for, well, never mind. What's done is done. This year's gonna be harder on you mentally than last time. Keep your head down. Don't worry about what anyone says. Your only goal is next June. If you need anything, school stuff, or just to talk, my door's open. Thanks, Mr. Henderson. All right. Go on. Stay focused. I nodded and walked out. The hallway was bright with sun. A bunch of freshmen were running around, loud and full of energy. I watched them, calm. I'd had that life. I was gonna get a better one. When I got back to my seat, I pulled out my phone to look up an English word. I had a few new texts. Mia again. Claire, you're actually retaking the test? That's so brave. I'm rooting for you. Also, T-alert. Jake's basically a pariah at school now. Someone filmed him begging you to come back and posted it on the campus Reddit. It got taken down fast, but everyone saw it. People are saying he got what he deserved. Chloe dumped him too, and she's going around saying he's spineless, that he can't even fix his own mess. Heard he got in a fight with his roommate too. Total loner now. Rough. I read the words. I could barely picture Jake's rough face in my head anymore. His drama, his friends, his little love life, it all felt like old news. Something that happened to someone else. I deleted the texts, turned off my data, and shoved my phone to the bottom of my backpack. I picked up my pencil and went back to the complicated function problem in front of me. Let f x equals. All the noise outside, all the old drama, it all faded away. My world was just formulas, problems, and the future I was building for myself. This year would be hard. But I was ready for it. My retake year ran like a well-oiled machine. Strict schedule, same thing every day. Up at 6. Bed at 11:30. Every 45-minute block filled with worksheets and review books, broken only by meals and short breaks. I cut off almost all socializing. My phone was only for looking things up and school announcements. I slowly lost touch with most of my old college friends, even Nia. Not because they weren't nice, but because I needed the space. I needed to focus, no distractions. My world got small: classroom, cafeteria, dorm. My goal got simple: get every point I could. That brutal focus paid off. My grades shot up fast, even better than they'd been my first senior year. Mr. Henderson kept staring at my test scores, shocked at how fast I was bouncing back. But just because I chose peace didn't mean trouble would stay away. It was a Friday afternoon. Last period study hall. Everyone else had bolted for the cafeteria or the bus, ready for the weekend. I stayed behind to work through a physics problem I was stuck on. When I finally packed up and walked out of the building, it was getting dark. I saw him the second I stepped through the front doors. Jake. He was in a faded old t-shirt, wrinkled jeans, way thinner than I remembered. His hair was a mess, he had stubble all over his face. He looked worn out, miserable. Nothing like the bright, cocky boy I'd known. He stood across the street, staring at every student walking out like he was hunting for something. When I saw him, my heart didn't even skip a beat. I just felt annoyed. Like a fly you thought you'd swatted, buzzing back again. I turned immediately and headed for the side exit of the school. But he saw me. Claire. He yelled my name, rough, and ran straight across the street without looking. Tires screeched, drivers yelled. He didn't care. He just ran at me. His eyes were bloodshot, wild with something I didn't recognize. I frowned and walked faster. I didn't want to talk to him. Not at all. Claire, wait. Just listen to me. He panted, chasing after me. I didn't answer. I made it to the side gate. The security guard there knew me. He saw my face, saw the crazy guy chasing me, and stepped forward fast. You okay, kid? Who's this guy? I don't know him. I said it calm and clear. He's been following me. Can you help? I walked through the gate and didn't look back. Behind me, I heard Jake yelling, furious, as the guard held him back. Claire. How can you say you don't know me? You're so cold. I'm like this because of you, and you won't even look at me? 18 years. You're just gonna throw it all away? Do you even have a heart? The yelling faded behind me, carried off by the wind. I walked to the bus stop, face neutral. His pain, his mess, he did that to himself. He wasn't like this because of me. He was paying the price for being stupid and selfish. And he still didn't get it. He still thought I was the one who ruined his life. Pathetic. The bus came. I got on, sat by the window. I didn't feel a thing. That night, I told my parents about Jake showing up at school. Dad got furious immediately and said he'd go over to the Wilsons and give them a piece of his mind. I stopped him. Dad, don't. It's not worth it. It just drags us down to their level. Dad looked at my calm face and backed down. But we wanted to be done with it, and they didn't. Around 9 that night, Dad's phone rang. Unknown number. Dad answered, put it on speaker. David? Is that you, David? The voice on the other end was tired, old. Mr. Wilson. It's me. Dad's voice was cold. David, I owe you an apology. I raised my son wrong. I'm so sorry for what he did to Claire. He sounded guilty, desperate. I know it's too late to say sorry. But I'm begging you. Begging Claire. Call the school. Tell them it was a mistake, that she wants to come back. Please. Robert, Dad said, sharp. My daughter's life is her choice. If she doesn't want to go back, no one's gonna make her. I'm hanging up now. Wait. David, don't hang up. Mr. Wilson sounded frantic. I'm asking you, as a friend of 20 years. Jake went over to her school and caused a scene. The college gave him major disciplinary probation. If this keeps up, he'll get expelled. His whole future is ruined. If Claire just comes back, maybe they'll drop the probation. Please. Think of the kids. I heard it then. I understood. Jake hadn't come to apologize. He'd come because he was in trouble, and he wanted to use me to fix it again. And Mr. Wilson's big apology call? It was all about his son. Not one of them had ever actually cared about how I felt. They only cared about what my choice would cost them. Dad was quiet for a few seconds. Then he spoke, slow and cold as steel. Your son's future is your problem. My daughter's dignity is my family's whole world. As of today, our families have nothing to say to each other ever again. He hung up. The room went quiet. Those words, nothing to say to each other ever again, cut through the last 20 years of neighborly small talk and fake politeness. Mom didn't say anything. She just got up and poured Dad a glass of water. Dad's hand was shaking a little, but his eyes were steady. He'd made the right call. For me, for all of us. After that night, the Wilsons stopped being a topic in our house. We didn't talk about them like they'd just moved away. I threw myself even harder into studying, building my future one worksheet at a time. Peace lasted about 2 weeks. I got home from evening study hall one night and could tell something was off. Mom and Dad were on the couch, serious. There was even an unopened pack of cigarettes on the table. Dad had quit almost 10 years ago. Dad? Mom? What's wrong? I dropped my backpack. Mom looked at me, like she didn't know how to say it. Dad sighed, picked up the cigarettes, then put them down again. He didn't light one. Word around the building is, your Uncle Robert's in the hospital. I blinked. I didn't feel much of anything. What happened? From what the neighbors are saying, the night we talked on the phone, him and Jake got into a huge fight. Real bad. Next thing you know, he collapsed. Couldn't talk straight. Margaret called 911. Whole building heard the ambulance. Hemorrhagic stroke. Hemorrhagic stroke. Heavy words. Mom added, quiet, Mrs. Miller said they worked on him all night. He lived, but half his body's paralyzed. No one knows how much he'll recover. Margaret's running back and forth between the hospital and the house, falling apart. Jake's home from school now, stays in his room all day. Won't come out. I listened. I could picture it. The dad, the rock of the family, struck down. For a woman like Mrs. Wilson, and a man-child as spoiled as Jake, it must have felt like the end of the world. And Jake had lit the match. He'd handed Chloe those scissors, and he'd pushed his family right over the edge. Dad watched me, like he was waiting to see how I'd take it. Claire, I know, none of this is our fault. But we've known them so long. He helped us out a few times back in the day. Your mom and I were thinking, maybe we should go by the hospital once. Just to be polite. Close the book on it, you know? I got it. My parents were good people. Old-fashioned. They believed in being decent, even when someone hurt you. I looked at them and shook my head. Dad, Mom. I'm not going. My voice was soft, but firm. If we go, what does that say? It says we forgive them. It says we feel bad for them. And you know Margaret and Jake? They won't be grateful. They'll see it as an opening. They'll tie Jake's probation, his dad's sickness, all of it, to us. They'll try to make us fix it. I paused, looked them dead in the eye. Visiting won't make Mr. Wilson better. But it will bring a whole mess of trouble back into our lives. He got sick because of Jake's choices. Jake has to live with that. We're not saints. We're just a family that got hurt. We save our kindness for people who deserve it. My words cut right through that politeness and laid out the truth. Sympathy and a visit wouldn't earn us thanks. It would earn us another round of guilt-tripping. Dad was quiet for a long time. Finally, he picked up the unopened cigarettes and threw them in the trash. He stood up, walked over, and touched my short hair, already grown out a little. His eyes were proud. You're all grown up, kiddo. He said. You're right. We were being too soft. From now on, we do things your way. In that moment, I didn't feel like the kid who needed protecting anymore. I felt like the one holding the family together. I'd built a wall between us and all that mess, and it was solid. Whatever happened to the Wilsons wasn't my problem anymore. They'd made their bed. Now they had to lie in it. The news about Mr. Wilson rippled through me for a day, then faded. My life was still the same, classes, worksheets, more worksheets. Everyone called the prep program the pressure cooker. Everyone there carried their own failure and regret. No one talked much. Everyone was an island. The only thing that mattered was the big red scoreboard on the wall. My deskmate was a guy named Liam Hayes. He was quiet, like me. Tall, always in a faded school hoodie, black-rimmed glasses. Sharp, focused eyes. I never heard him say a useless word. He only talked to ask the teacher questions. We had this unspoken thing going. Once, I got stuck on a brutal analytic geometry problem. I filled half a page of scratch paper and got nowhere. I set it aside and moved on. When I came back from the bathroom, there was a short line of pencil notes in the margin, pointing right to the trick with the auxiliary line. Clean, sharp handwriting. Just like him. I glanced over at Liam. He was working on physics, like nothing had happened. I didn't say thank you. I just picked up my pencil and followed his lead. Solved it easy. Next day, I saw he'd left a hard organic chemistry problem blank. I drew out the full molecular structure on a scrap of paper and slid it onto his desk. That's how we talked. Through problems. Through competition. He was like a mirror. Another person just as focused, just as hungry to win. It was nice. Respectful. No drama. Nothing like the one-sided mess I'd had with Jake. The second big monthly test rolled around. Statewide mock exam. Big deal. The room was tense. I worked through every question steady, pen flying across the page. All those months of studying poured out. When the scores came out, the hallway was packed. I didn't bother crowding around. I just sat at my desk fixing my mistake journal. A girl in the front row turned around, eyes wide. "Claire? You killed it. #1 in the whole state." My hand stilled. I looked up. A bunch of people were staring now. Impressed. Jealous. Mostly just, "Oh, that makes sense." All that quiet, brutal work had paid off. People knew now. Liam turned around too. He glanced at me, a flicker of respect and competition in his eyes. He nodded at the scoreboard. His name was right under mine. #2 in the state. I gave him a small smile. First real smile I'd had since I walked into this class. After evening study hall, Mr. Henderson called me into his office. He was holding my score sheet, grinning ear to ear. "Claire, fantastic work." He clapped me on the shoulder. "I knew you had it in you. That's 30 points higher than your actual SAT score last year. Keep this up, and you'll be the top scorer in the state by a mile. Top schools will be fighting over you." I held that paper in my hand, 1580 printed at the top. It felt solid. Good. Better than any compliment Jake had ever given me. Way better. Because I'd earned every single point of it. No one had given it to me. No one could take it away. It was mine. I brought the score sheet home. Mom and Dad saw that big red #1 and cried happy tears. Mom made my favorite dinner. Dad broke out a bottle of bourbon he'd been saving for years and poured himself a small glass. "That's my girl." Dad took a sip, beaming. "Screw that stupid boy, screw that stupid school. You're a star. You don't need that place. Next year, you're going to the best school in the country." I looked at my parents, at the food steaming on the table, at all the lights outside our window. My chest felt warm. I'd closed one door on my life. But I'd opened a bigger, brighter one for all of us. And outside that door? A whole new world was waiting. The months flew by. My retake year rolled on like a river, steady and fast, heading straight for my goal. That big test win had given me a huge boost. I was more confident than ever. Meanwhile, Jake and Chloe's world kept sinking. Mia texted me every once in a while with updates. I barely replied, but I'd read them sometimes when I needed a break. Just background noise. One Saturday afternoon, I took half the day off. I was helping Mom clean the house when my phone buzzed in the other room. I wiped my hands and went to check it. Mia again. "Claire. Drama." Jake and Chloe had a full blow-up in the dining hall. It was insane. A bunch of laughing emojis followed. I raised an eyebrow and tapped into the messages. Mia wrote it like she was there, "You have no idea how bad Chloe's had it. Everyone calls her the scissors girl now. That whole popular girl thing? Ruined. She was up for this huge scholarship, totally had it in the bag, but they flunked her on the conduct review because of the gala thing. Heard she threw a ton of stuff in her dorm room, she was so mad." I could picture it. Chloe was so used to being adored. She couldn't stand having a stain on her perfect reputation. And I was the stain she'd made herself. Here's the good part, Mia kept going. Today at lunch, she ran into Jake. "He looks terrible, super skinny, all gross, like a homeless guy." She saw him and tried to bolt. But he ran after her and stopped her. I think he was asking her for money? His parents probably cut him off after everything with his dad. And Chloe just lost it. Full-on yelled at him in front of everyone. Called him a loser, said he couldn't even fix his own mess, that he ruined her scholarship and her reputation. Then Jake snapped. Totally lost it. Yelled back so the whole dining hall heard, "It was your idea. You told me to cut ties with my old life. You said using Claire as a joke would prove I was serious. You thought it was funny. Don't act like you're innocent. You're way worse than me. My fingers tightened around my phone. So it hadn't just been Jake being stupid. Chloe had planned the whole thing. A cruel little initiation. Mia's texts kept coming, whole dining hall went dead quiet. Everyone heard. Now everyone knows the whole story. Chloe's face was so red. She couldn't even argue. She ran out crying. Everyone's talking about it on the Reddit. They're total social pariahs now. They're the campus villains now. I read the whole thing. I didn't laugh. I didn't feel vindicated. I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt nothing. Like I'd finished a boring show. The bad guys got what was coming to them, and you don't cheer. You just think, okay, that's over. I deleted the texts and opened the curtains. Warm afternoon sun fell on my stack of review books, gilding the edges. This was my battlefield. This was my future. Those people, their fights, their mess, they were just dust behind me. I picked up my vocab book and flipped to a new page. Abandon. I said the word quiet to myself, then wrote the next one next to it. Rebirth. Time slipped by in the scratch of pencil on paper. The trees outside went from bare buds to full green leaves. Before I knew it, there were 100 days left until test day. The whole prep program was stretched tight as a bowstring. No one laughed in the hallways anymore. Everyone walked fast, tired-eyed, scared and hopeful all at once. Even quiet Liam had dark circles under his eyes. Our competition was at its peak. Every mock exam, we were within a point or two of each other. First one week, second the next. Our names stayed glued to the top 2 spots on the board. We pushed each other harder and harder, like 2 machines trying to outrun each other. I loved it. For the first time in my life, I had someone who was both a rival and an equal. No jealousy. Just respect. Just drive. One night during study hall, Mr. Henderson walked in and wrote 100 days on the board in big red chalk. The room went so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Everyone looked up at those numbers, eyes wide. Scared. Excited. Ready to burn the boats. My heart skipped a beat. It had been almost a year. Almost a year since that night that changed everything. My hair was down to my ears now, no more buzz cut. The scar of that night was fading. Fading fast. That weekend, I went home to get clean clothes. I was just walking up to the building when I saw her. Mrs. Wilson. I barely recognized her. She looked 10, 15 years older. Her face was lined, her hair streaked with gray, eyes dull. She wore an old, worn coat and carried a net bag with a few sad-looking vegetables in it. She just stood there by the entrance, empty. When she saw me, her eyes lit up. She hurried over, forcing a wobbly smile. Claire, there you are. Her voice was rough, dry. I stopped and looked at her, calm. I didn't walk away. I just waited to see what she wanted. Claire, it's been so long, she rubbed her hands together, nervous. How's school going? You look so thin. Did you need something, Mrs. Wilson? I kept it short. No small talk. My coldness wiped the smile off her face. She looked down, voice shaking. Claire, I know. I know we treated you wrong. Jake was terrible, he was an idiot. I'm so sorry. She started to bend her knees, like she was gonna kneel. I stepped back, out of reach. Don't. My voice was flat. If that's all, I'm going upstairs. Wait. Claire, please. She grabbed my arm. Her hand was cold and bony, like a stick. I'm begging you. Please help our family. There it was. The real reason she was here. Your father, he hasn't been the same since the hospital. Half his body still doesn't work. We've spent all our savings on doctors, and Jake, he got in that fight at school, and the probation turned into expulsion. They kicked him out. She cried, snotty and messy, listing off all their misery. He just stays home all day now. Drinks. Yells. Says it's all your fault. Claire, I know you're a good girl. You always looked out for him, can't you? Can't you give him another chance? Just call your old school. Tell them you want to come back. If you go back, maybe they'll let Jake come back too. He can still have a future. I listened to her ridiculous plea. I didn't even feel angry. I just felt sad. For her. For all of them. Even now, even after everything, she still thought I should sacrifice myself for Jake. Still thought my life existed to fix his mistakes. I looked at her worn-out, desperate face and shook my head. Slow and clear. Mrs. Wilson. You're wrong. First, Jake didn't end up like this because of me. He ended up like this because of the choices he made. Second, my life isn't here to fix his problems. Not anymore. Third, our families haven't been anything to each other for a long time. I gently, but firmly, pulled her hand off my arm. Take care of yourself. That was the last thing I said to her. I turned and walked up the stairs, leaving her sobs behind me. I didn't tell my parents when I got home. No point in upsetting them over people who didn't matter. I went to my room and stared at the calendar on my desk. Big red numbers, 100 days. That was my world. That was my future. People who wanted to drag me down into their mess? They'd get left behind. The 3 days of the test felt like the whole town held its breath. Even the buses drove quieter. The air was thick with tension, with hope, with whole families hanging on the outcome. Dad took 3 days off work. He got up at 5 every morning to make me breakfast. Mom laid out lucky outfits for me, red for a good start, green for smooth sailing. They were more nervous than I was. It was sweet. It made me feel safe. First day, evidence-based reading and writing. I got to the test center half an hour early. Parents were packed outside the gates, craning their necks, yelling last-minute reminders. My parents walked me to the security line. Dad clapped me on the shoulder, steady and sure. You've got this. Just do what you do. We'll be right here when you're done. I smiled and nodded, then walked through the gates. I felt like a soldier going into battle. And I had an army behind me. The test room was quiet. The proctor read the rules slow and serious. I sat down, took a deep breath, and cleared my head. When they passed out the test booklets, I flipped through fast. I knew all of it. Nothing surprised me. I picked up my pencil and started. It didn't feel like a test. It felt like something I was creating, free, easy, fully alive. Words, formulas, grammar rules, they all flowed out of me like I'd been practicing my whole life. All those late nights, all those worksheets, they all paid off. Last day, math and science. When I saw the last big physics problem, I almost smiled. The electromagnetic model was almost exactly the same as one Liam had drawn for me on a scrap of paper once. I could almost see his sharp eyes behind those glasses, saying good luck without saying a word. I wrote out the solution fast, clear as day. When the final bell rang, I set down my pencil and breathed out long and slow. It was over. The whole year of grinding. Done. Everyone poured out of the test centers yelling, cheering, throwing their notebooks in the air. Paper snow everywhere. The end of an era. I didn't cheer. I just smiled and walked with the crowd toward the exit. The sun was bright, almost too bright. I squinted, looking for my parents in the crowd. That's when I glanced across the street. In a dark corner, I saw him. Jake. He looked worse than ever. Dirty work shirt, greasy hair, face blank and lost. He stood outside the crowd, staring at all the happy, hopeful kids walking out. All the laughter, all the relief, all the bright futures, none of it was for him. He was a ghost on the edge of everything. Light years away from all of it. Our eyes met for half a second. I saw shock, regret, jealousy, and bottomless despair. He opened his mouth like he was gonna say something. I just looked away. Calm. Like he was a rock on the sidewalk. Like he was nobody. I spotted my parents, waving wildly, grinning from ear to ear. I walked faster, toward them. Toward the light. Dad. Mom. I hugged Mom tight. All the tiredness, all the pressure, it all melted away. I didn't look back. His hell, his regret, none of it was my business. My future was right in front of me. The weeks after the test were the first real break I'd had in a year. I didn't go partying or take a big trip like everyone else. I just stayed home, enjoyed the quiet. Slept in, cooked with Mom, watched the news with Dad, went to the library and checked out all the novels I'd been wanting to read. I felt lighter than I had in years. Waiting for scores was torture for a lot of people. For me, it was calm. I'd done everything I could. The rest was up to fate. Whatever happened, I'd be okay. Mom and Dad were way more stressed. They sat by the computer every night, refreshing the College Board website over and over, scared they'd miss the second scores dropped. Finally, one hot afternoon, the site went live. The whole house went tense. Mom's hands were sweating. Dad paced back and forth. I sat down at the computer, took a deep breath, and typed in my ID and password, one number at a time. I hit view scores. My heart sped up, just a little. The page loaded. Evidence-based reading and writing, 780. Math, 800. Total, 1,580. The room went dead silent. Mom and Dad leaned in, squinting at the number, counting the digits again and again. 1580? Mom's voice shook. She rubbed her eyes and looked again. Am I seeing this? David, look. Dad put on his reading glasses. His face went from shocked to overjoyed. He smacked his thigh and laughed loud. You're not seeing things. 1,580. That's top scorer in the state. My girl's the best in the whole state. Next thing I knew, Mom was hugging me tight, crying happy tears. My baby, my smart, brave girl. I'm so proud of you. I hugged her back, eyes stinging. All the frustration, all the late nights, all the pain, it all washed away. This score was higher than I'd even dared to hope. It was proof. Proof that I'd been right to walk away. Proof that I could build something better for myself. The phone started ringing off the hook. Mr. Henderson called first, yelling congratulations down the line. Then Harvard and Yale admissions called, both offering great packages, begging me to apply. The local paper called, wanting an interview. I was polite to all of them. But I already knew what I wanted. When I filled out my applications, I didn't hesitate. I applied to Teachers College, Columbia University, in New York City. My first dream. The one I'd given up for Jake. I majored in English. For the first time in my life, I was choosing everything for me. A few days later, a neighbor stopped by. They chatted for a minute, then the topic drifted to the Wilsons. You know, the Wilsons have it real bad, the neighbor said, quiet. Old Robert never got better after the stroke. Walks with a cane now, and the medical bills piled up sky high. Margaret's picking up odd jobs left and right, barely making ends meet. And that boy Jake? Couldn't hold down a job. Heard he's washing dishes at that little diner on Main Street now. Saw him myself the other day, all skinny and worn out. Hard to believe he was a college boy once. Mom just nodded and changed the subject, asking about the neighbor's grandkid. I sat there quiet. I didn't feel anything. Dishwasher, construction, whatever. It was his life. The life he'd earned with his own choices. Mid-August, the big envelope came. Thick, cream paper, the gold Columbia seal on the front. Claire Bennett. I held it up to the window. That fall, I'd leave this town I'd lived in my whole life. I'd go somewhere new, somewhere big. No one there would know me. No one there would know my past. I'd get to be whoever I wanted. Start fresh. Bright. All the dark, all the hurt? It was all behind me now. Fading fast. September. Crisp, clear air. Moving day. Mom and Dad insisted on taking me to the train station. Dad took the whole day off work. They fussed over my bags, checked and rechecked that I had everything. Mom packed a whole insulated lunchbox full of my favorite barbecue ribs and buffalo wings, a taste of home, she said. I watched them bustle around, my throat tight. They'd been my rock this whole year. They'd stood by me when everything fell apart. They had a few more wrinkles now, but their eyes were brighter than ever. Guys, stop fussing. I'm fine. I can take care of myself. I hugged Mom from behind. She turned and touched my cheek, eyes shiny. You'll always be my baby. New York's a big place. Be careful. Eat well. Don't skimp on groceries. Okay? Okay. Dad picked up my suitcase. Go learn. Have fun. Don't worry about home. I've got it. We walked downstairs. A few neighbors were out front. They waved and smiled when they saw us. Hey, David. Sending Claire off to college? That girl's gonna do big things. Top score in the state. Bright future ahead. Have fun in New York, Claire. Mom and Dad beamed, said thank you over and over. I smiled and thanked them too. These people, who'd probably whispered about me dropping out a year ago, were all cheering me on now. I'd earned every bit of it. When we got to the front gate, I glanced over at the Wilson building. The curtains were drawn. I'd heard they'd sold the place and moved out to the country right after Mr. Wilson got out of the hospital. No one had seen them since. That whole chapter of my life was gone. Really gone. At the train station, the platform was packed. Goodbyes and excitement everywhere. Mr. Henderson was there, too. And Liam. Mr. Henderson. I was surprised. He laughed and clapped me on the shoulder. I knew you'd do great. Just one thing to say, go out there and shine. Don't forget where you came from. I won't. I looked at Liam. Same quiet guy, plain white t-shirt, backpack slung over one shoulder. Calm, sharp eyes. You're going to New York too? I asked. He nodded. Columbia Engineering. We smiled at each other. No big speech needed. We'd been rivals, we'd been teammates. We'd pushed each other further than either of us could have gone alone. See you in New York, he said. See you there. They called boarding. I hugged my parents one last time, bit back the tears, and waved. Then I walked with Liam onto the train. The train pulled away slow. I watched my parents on the platform, waving. Mom was crying. Dad had his arm around her. Tears ran down my face, too. Goodbye, home. Goodbye, old life. The train picked up speed. The station blurred. Just before it rounded the corner, I glanced down at the far end of the platform. A man in a cheap security guard uniform was sweeping trash off the ground. He looked up when he heard the train. It was Jake. He looked thinner, older, hollowed out. No spark left in his eyes. He just stood there, watching the train full of bright futures roll past him. Our eyes met through the window, for a split second. A million miles apart. I saw shock. Then horror. Then that same old despair. He recognized me. His mouth moved, but no sound came through. I just looked at him, calm, like he was any stranger on the street. Then I turned my head away. Didn't look back. The train roared on, leaving him, leaving the town, leaving all of it, far behind. Sunlight fell through the window, warm on my face. My new life had started. After a long train ride, we pulled into New York City. I stepped off the train into the hum of the city, tall buildings, taxi horns, 100 different accents all mixing together. Bright, loud, endless. Exciting. The school had a shuttle waiting for new students at Penn Station. I found the teacher's college table, said hello to the upperclassmen volunteers, and got on the bus. The campus was beautiful. Old brick buildings, big leafy trees, tucked right in the middle of Manhattan. You could almost feel the history in the air. This was home for the next 4 years. Maybe longer. I checked in, got my dorm key, and dragged my suitcase up to the 3rd floor. Standard 4-person room, lofted beds, desks underneath, a little balcony. 2 of my roommates were already there. Hey. I'm Zoe. From LA. A girl with a high ponytail, sharp and energetic, held out her hand. Hi, I'm Lily. From Boston. The other girl was quiet, bookish, smiled shyly. Hi, I'm Claire. From Ohio. I set my bag down. Claire? Wait, the state top scorer? Zoe's eyes went wide. I heard about you on the new student group. No way we're roommates. That's awesome. Lily pushed her glasses up, impressed. Wow. That's really cool. They were warm, open, easy to talk to. No one here knew my past. No one here looked at me with pity. To them, I was just the smart new roommate. It felt amazing. We chatted while we unpacked hometowns, what we were excited for, clubs we wanted to join. The room was full of laughter. Nothing like that sad, awkward first dorm room a year ago. That night, our 4th roommate showed up, this cool girl from Texas who did competitive rodeo. We all went to the dining hall together for our first college dinner. The food was good, cheap, lots of options. We talked about convocation the next day, laughing the whole time. After dinner, I went for a walk around campus by myself. The evening air was cool, nice. Lights were on everywhere. Other new students wandered around, wide-eyed and excited. Upperclassmen hurried by with stacks of books. I walked down to the big lake in the middle of campus. Willow trees hung over the water. Lights from the buildings reflected on the surface, rippling in gold. I sat down on a bench and called my parents on FaceTime. Hey, Mom, Dad. I made it. Dorms all set. Roommates are great. School's beautiful. Don't worry about me. They leaned in to look at the campus behind me, smiling. That's wonderful, baby. Take care of yourself. Call if you need anything. Money's no object. I will. We talked forever, until my phone almost died. I hung up and stared out at the water. 1 year ago today, I'd been on that stage, waiting for a surprise from Jake. 1 year later, I was here. At my dream school. With new friends. A whole new life. I'd thought that night would break me. But it didn't. It just knocked me down for a minute. And when I got back up, I was stronger. I'd learned how to stand up for myself. How to choose me. In a weird way, I was almost glad it happened. The wind played with my hair, grown out now, to my chin. I breathed in deep, smelled grass and lake water. I stood up and stretched. I felt strong. The past was done. My new life was just getting started. As I turned to walk back to the dorm, my phone buzzed. Text from Liam. All settled in? Short. Just like him. I smiled and texted back. All settled. He replied right away. Columbia's campus is nice at night. You should come see it sometime. Maybe you should come see Teachers College first. It's nicer. I put my phone away and walked back to the dorm, smiling. New York was big. But we weren't far apart. Nice. Freshman year was better than I'd ever imagined. I drank in every class, every book. I got lost in novels and poetry, talked for hours with my professors about books and ideas. I joined the literary magazine on campus, wrote essays and poems, made friends with people who loved the same things I did. I was good at what I did. People respected me. But it wasn't all school. I joined the volunteer club, too. On weekends, I tutored kids at the local community center, visited seniors at the nursing home. Helping people felt good. It made my world bigger. Liam and I stayed in touch. We'd meet at that big Barnes and Noble between our campuses, read for hours in silence, then get dinner. We'd go to the New York Public Library, or walk around the Met, wander through the exhibits. We didn't talk much. But we got each other. He was my person, in this big new city. The year flew by. I got straight A's, won a prestigious national academic scholarship, and got picked to speak at the college's end-of-year honors ceremony. The day of the ceremony, I wore a simple white dress. I stood up on that stage, in front of hundreds of students and professors, and talked about what I'd learned, about what I wanted to do next. My voice was steady. My eyes were bright. Sunlight streamed through the windows and gilded the edges of my hair. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was glowing. When I finished, the whole room applauded. That night, I called my parents to tell them. They were so proud they could barely talk. We chatted for a while, then Mom said, casual, like she was just mentioning the weather, "Oh, honey, heard something about the Wilsons the other day, from Mrs. Miller. They moved out to that little farm upstate, and it didn't go well. Jake got in with some bad people, owed money. People came after him. His dad had another stroke when he found out. Didn't make it." My chest tightened, just a little. Then it went soft again. Really? Him. Mom's voice was quiet, no joy in it, just sad. After the funeral, Margaret had a breakdown. Her sister came and got her, took her back to Texas. Jake? No one knows where he went. Some say he left town with the people he owed money to. Some say he headed west. Just gone. The old farm's sitting empty. The boy who'd been such a huge part of my life for 18 years was gone. Just like that. It was the end you'd expect, when you made every wrong choice. When you picked up those scissors, you cut more than hair. You cut your own future, too. It's over, I said to Mom. To both of us. Sure is. Mom sighed. But enough about that. My girl's killing it in New York. Your life's just getting started. I hung up and walked out onto the dorm balcony. I looked out at the city lights, stretching for miles. The world was big. People came and went. Jake's story was over. Mine was just getting to the good part. A few days later, I got an invitation in the mail. A literary journal I loved had picked up one of my essays on modern poetry. They invited me to a young writers' conference down in Savannah, Georgia, next month. I held the fancy gold-embossed invitation, my heart beating fast. This was it. The next step. Proof that all the work was paying off. I texted Liam about it. He was quiet for a second on the phone. Then he said, "Congratulations. Savannah's beautiful. I was thinking about heading down there, too." I laughed. You going for the scenery, or for me? He chuckled, low and warm, right in my ear. Both. The sun was shining. The wind was soft. I leaned against the balcony railing, watching students walk by below, listening to someone play guitar off in the distance. I smiled. My future was bright. Clear. Full of good things. And the past? It could stay right where it was. Gone with the wind.